The fusion reactor incident changed everything for Zekathari. He could no longer pretend that human children were just unusually clever. They were something else entirely, something that defied everything he thought he knew about intelligence and capability. He decided he needed to understand them better. Watching from his ship was not enough anymore. He needed to get closer, to see how their minds worked from the inside. Using advanced Vorthak technology, Zekathari created a holographic disguise that made him look like a human. It was not perfect, but it would pass casual inspection. He made himself appear as a middle-aged human male with brown hair and ordinary features. The next morning, he flew a small shuttle to the human spaceport. He had created false identification documents that showed him as Dr. David Chen, a visiting scientist from another human colony. The security guards barely looked at his papers before waving him through. Zekathari made his way to Harmony Falls Elementary and Middle School. He had contacted them using a fake communication signal, claiming to be a researcher studying childhood education. The principal, Mrs. Anderson, had been happy to invite him for a visit. "Dr. Chen, welcome to our school," Mrs. Anderson said as she met him at the front entrance. She was a friendly woman with gray hair and kind eyes. "We're always excited to show off what our students can do." As they walked through the hallways, Zekathari saw normal things mixed with extraordinary ones. Some classrooms had regular desks and blackboards. Others contained equipment that looked more advanced than anything on Vorthak research stations. "Our philosophy is simple," Mrs. Anderson explained. "We give children the tools they need and let their curiosity guide them. You'd be amazed what they can accomplish when no one tells them something is impossible." They stopped at a classroom where 15 students between ages 11 and 13 were working on individual projects. The teacher, Mr. Williams, was helping a girl named Lucy with what appeared to be a small machine that floated in the air. "Lucy is working on personal transportation," Mr. Williams said when he noticed their visitors. "She thinks walking is inefficient." Lucy looked up from her floating device. She was a quiet girl with short blonde hair and serious eyes. "Walking takes too much energy," she said matter-of-factly. "This uses magnetic fields to counteract gravity. It's much more practical." Zekathari stared at the device. Anti-gravity technology was theoretical even for the Vorthak. They had been trying to develop it for decades without success. But this 11-year-old human had built a working model in what appeared to be a few weeks. "How does it work?" Zekathari asked, trying to keep his voice casual. "It's really simple," Lucy said. She began explaining the principles behind her invention. Her explanation involved advanced physics concepts that most Vorthak scientists would struggle to understand, but she talked about them like they were basic math. In the next classroom, they found Chris, a 13-year-old boy with red hair and freckles. He was working with what looked like a communication device, but Zekathari's hidden sensors detected something much more complex. "Chris is improving our long-distance communication system," the teacher explained. "The colony's main transmitter can only reach about 10 light-years. Chris thinks he can extend that range significantly." "How significantly?" Zekathari asked. "Well," Chris said, looking up from his work, "I'm trying to create a quantum entanglement network. If it works, we could communicate instantly with any other colony, no matter how far away." Zekathari felt his disguised human heart skip a beat. Quantum entanglement communication was beyond even advanced Vorthak technology. The concept existed in their scientific theories, but no one had ever made it work practically. Yet this 13-year-old was talking about it like he was building a simple radio. "The tricky part is maintaining the entangled particles over long distances," Chris continued. "But I think I've figured out how to use folded spacetime to create stable quantum bridges." The boy's casual mention of folded spacetime made Zekathari's head spin. Spacetime manipulation was one of the most advanced theoretical concepts in galactic science. Most species could barely understand it, let alone use it practically. They moved to the science laboratory where they found Emma and Jake, two 11-year-olds working together on something that defied explanation. They had created what appeared to be a bubble of distorted space around their workbench. "What are you two working on?" Mrs. Anderson asked. "Time dilation experiments," Emma said cheerfully. She had curly brown hair and bright green eyes. "We wanted to see if we could make time move slower in a small area." "It's for studying fast chemical reactions," Jake added. He was a serious-looking boy with dark hair and glasses. "Some reactions happen too quickly to observe properly. But if we slow down time around them, we can watch what happens." Zekthari watched in horror as the two children adjusted their device. Inside the bubble of distorted space, a dropped coin fell much more slowly than it should have. They had actually created a localized time dilation field. Time manipulation was forbidden technology in Vorthak society. It was considered too dangerous for any practical use. The theoretical calculations alone required supercomputers and teams of the most brilliant scientists. But these two 11-year-olds had built a working time dilation device as an afternoon project. "Is this safe?" Zekthari asked, trying not to show his panic. "Oh yes," the teacher said casually. "We always make sure the children understand safety protocols before they work with space-time distortion. Last month, someone accidentally created a small gravity well, and we had to evacuate the building for an hour." The teacher spoke about space-time distortion and gravity wells like they were common classroom hazards, like spilled chemicals or electrical shocks. Zekthari realized that to these humans, manipulating the fundamental forces of the universe was just another learning experience. During lunch break, he sat with a group of students in the cafeteria. They talked about their projects like children from his home planet might discuss their favorite games. "I'm working on a matter compiler," said 15-year-old Marcus between bites of his sandwich. "You know, something that can arrange atoms to create any object you want. The hard part is getting the quantum states right." "That sounds cool," said a 12-year-old girl named Sarah. "I'm trying to figure out how to make artificial black holes for energy storage. The math is really tricky, though." Zekthari nearly choked on his disguised human food. These children were casually discussing technologies that could reshape civilization. Matter compilation and controlled black holes were dream technologies that most advanced species could barely imagine. "What about you, Dr. Chen?" asked Marcus. "What kind of research do you do?" Zekthari struggled to think of an answer. He could not tell them he was a spy sent to watch their colony. But compared to what these children were working on, his actual job seemed almost primitive. "I study how different species learn and solve problems," he said finally. "That's fascinating," said Sarah. "Have you noticed that most adult species seem to get stuck in rigid thinking patterns? Like they decide something is impossible and then never try to do it." "Children don't have that problem," added Marcus. "We don't know what's supposed to be impossible yet, so we just try things and see what happens." As the day continued, Zekthari realized he was witnessing something unprecedented in galactic history. These human children were not just smart or creative. They were operating on a level that transcended normal intelligence. They approached problems without preconceptions about what was possible or impossible. They combined advanced scientific knowledge with unlimited imagination. They worked together with a natural cooperation that most adult species struggled to achieve. And most terrifying of all, they were just getting started. These were children still learning and growing. What would they be capable of when they reached adulthood? What would happen when thousands of these remarkable humans grew up and began working together on a larger scale? That evening, as Zekthari returned to his ship, he carried with him a terrible understanding. General Morthek had been wrong about the threat humans posed. Human adults were dangerous soldiers, yes, but human children were something far more extraordinary and terrifying. They were the future itself, walking around in small bodies and asking innocent questions that could reshape the galaxy. And no one in the Vorthak military had prepared him for that. Zekthari's ship moved through space toward the human colony on Kepler 442b. The journey took 12 days, and he spent every hour studying the files about humans. He watched battle videos until he knew every move the human soldiers made. He memorized their weapons and their tactics. He felt prepared for anything. The planet appeared on his view screen as a blue and green ball hanging in space. It looked peaceful and quiet. White clouds moved slowly across the surface. Zekthari could see the lights of human settlements scattered across the main continent. His ship was invisible to human sensors. Vorthak technology was still better than human technology in some ways. He found a good hiding spot behind one of the planet's 3 moons and started setting up his equipment. The surveillance system was the best the Vorthak military had ever built. It could see through walls and listen to conversations from thousands of miles away. It could track heat signatures and energy readings. Nothing the humans did would escape his notice. Zekthari pointed his scanners at the largest human settlement. The town was called Harmony Falls, and about 50,000 humans lived there. He expected to find military bases and weapon factories. Instead, he saw farms and schools and shopping areas. "Where are the soldiers?" he asked himself. The scanners showed only a few security guards and some police officers. There was no army base anywhere in the town. He widened his search to cover the whole planet. The results confused him even more. The humans had built farms, factories, and research centers. But there were no large military installations anywhere. The biggest weapons he could find were small rifles carried by security guards. "This makes no sense," Zekthari said. He checked his equipment to make sure it was working right. According to General Morthek, humans were always preparing for war. But this colony looked like they were preparing for peace. Zekthari decided to focus on the research centers. Maybe the humans were building secret weapons there. He aimed his scanners at a large building on the edge of Harmony Falls. The sign outside said New Haven Advanced Research Institute. Inside, he saw human scientists working with complex machines. They were studying plants and animals from their new planet. Some were working on better ways to grow food. Others were learning about the local weather patterns. It all looked very normal and boring. Then something caught his attention. His energy scanners were picking up strange readings from another building. The readings were unlike anything in his database. The energy patterns were complex and powerful, but they seemed to change every few minutes. Zekthari focused his scanners on the building. The sign outside said, Harmony Falls Elementary and Middle School. It was a school for human children. Why would a school generate so much energy? He wondered. Maybe the humans were hiding weapons in their schools. That would be a clever trick. He looked closer at the building. The school had 3 floors and could hold about 800 students. Children between the ages of 5 and 16 learned there. Zekthari expected to see normal classrooms with desks and books. Instead, he saw something that made no sense. In one room, a group of 10-year-old humans were building what looked like a small spacecraft. In another room, 12-year-olds were working with machines that seemed to bend light around them. A third room had 14-year-olds creating holographic displays that moved and changed shape. "What kind of school is this?" Zekthari asked. On his home planet, children that age were just learning to read and write. These human children were working with technology that looked more advanced than some Vorthak military equipment. He decided to watch more closely. Maybe the human adults were using the children to build weapons. Maybe this was part of their war plans. But as he watched, Zekthari realized the children were working on their own. The adults in the school were teachers, not scientists. They helped the children when asked, but mostly they just watched and smiled. In one classroom, a 9-year-old girl named Katie was showing her project to the teacher. She had built a small device that glowed with bright energy. The teacher looked surprised and excited. "Katie, this is remarkable," the teacher said. "How did you figure out how to make a fusion reaction so stable?" "I just thought about how stars work," Katie said. She sounded like fusion reactors were no more difficult than making cookies. "If I make the magnetic field spin like this, it keeps the plasma from touching the walls." Zekthari felt his skin turn pale blue with shock. This human child had built a fusion reactor. Fusion power was one of the most difficult technologies in the galaxy. Vorthak scientists needed years of training before they could work with fusion energy. But this 9-year-old had figured it out as a school project. He told himself it must be a toy. Maybe it only looked like a real fusion reactor, but his scanners said the device was producing real fusion energy. It was small and simple, but it worked perfectly. In another classroom, a 12-year-old boy named Ryan was working with computers. Zekthari watched him type commands that moved faster than the Vorthak officer could follow. The boy seemed to be playing some kind of game. "Ryan, what are you working on today?" asked his teacher. "I'm trying to make the town's computer network run faster," Ryan said. "The internet here is kind of slow. I think I can fix it by changing how the data moves around." Zekthari watched in horror as the boy broke into the town's main computer system. This should have been impossible. The humans used security systems that were supposed to be unbreakable. But Ryan got through them like they were not even there. Worse, the boy was not trying to steal information or cause damage. He was actually making the system work better. Within an hour, the internet speed in Harmony Falls had increased by 300%. "Very good work, Ryan," the teacher said. "Remember to ask permission before you change important systems." "Okay, Mrs. Peterson," Ryan said. "I'll be more careful next time." Zekthari could not believe what he was seeing. On his home planet, breaking into government computers would result in life in prison. Here, a 12-year-old did it as homework and got a gentle reminder to ask permission first. He spent the rest of the day watching different classrooms. Everywhere he looked, human children were doing things that should have been impossible. A group of 13-year-olds had built a machine that could make any object they wanted from basic materials. Two 11-year-olds were working on a device that could make people invisible for short periods of time. The most shocking thing was how normal it all seemed to the humans. The teachers were not surprised by any of this. The children treated their amazing inventions like they were ordinary school projects. Even the other children seemed to think building fusion reactors and breaking into computer systems was perfectly normal. That evening, Zekthari sent his first report to Vorthak Command. He described the peaceful farming colony and the lack of military installations. He mentioned the research centers and the schools. But he did not mention what the children were doing. He told himself it was because his superiors would not believe him. How could he explain that human children were more advanced than Vorthak adults? How could he make them understand that 9-year-olds were building fusion reactors for fun? But deep inside, Zekthari knew the real reason he did not report the children. He was scared. General Morthek had warned him that human adults were dangerous. But nobody had warned him about human children. If human children could build fusion reactors and break into computer systems, what would they be able to do when they grew up? What kind of weapons would they create? What kind of technology would they invent? For the first time since arriving at the colony, Zekthari wondered if he was watching the wrong humans. Maybe the real threat was not the human soldiers or the human scientists. Maybe the real threat was sleeping in beds and getting ready for school tomorrow. Zekthari had been watching the human colony for 3 weeks when the crisis began. A massive storm system was moving toward New Haven, bigger than anything the planet had seen since the humans arrived. The wind speeds were over 200 miles per hour, and lightning filled the dark clouds. The storm hit Harmony Falls during the night. Zekthari watched from his hidden ship as rain and wind battered the human settlement. The power lines went down first, then the communication towers. By morning, the entire town was without electricity. This was not just inconvenient for the humans. The planet's weather was harsh and winter was coming. Without power, their heating systems would not work. Without heating, the humans would freeze to death in a matter of days. Zekthari expected the human adults to panic. Any sensible species would send emergency calls to other colonies or evacuate to warmer areas. Instead, the humans seemed calm and organized. They moved through their town checking on neighbors and gathering in community centers. The adult engineers and technicians worked quickly to assess the damage. Zekthari listened to their radio communications with his surveillance equipment. The news was bad. The main power plant had been destroyed by lightning. The backup generators were damaged by flooding. Repairing everything would take at least 6 weeks. "We don't have 6 weeks," said the chief engineer, a man named Robert Kane. "The temperature will drop below freezing in 4 days. We need power now, or we need to evacuate." Evacuation was not simple. The storm had damaged the spaceport and no ships could land safely. The roads to other settlements were blocked by fallen trees and flooding. The humans were trapped in their powerless town with winter approaching fast. That afternoon, Zekthari noticed unusual activity at the school. Instead of sending the children home, the teachers were keeping them there. Groups of students were gathering in the gymnasium and the science labs. They seemed to be having some kind of meeting. A 14-year-old boy named Alex stood in front of about 50 children. He was tall for his age and spoke with confidence that reminded Zekthari of a military commander. "Okay, everyone knows the situation," Alex said. "The adults are doing their best, but they need our help. We have skills they don't have, and we can move faster than they can." A 13-year-old girl named Lisa raised her hand. "What exactly are you thinking, Alex?" "The power plant is completely destroyed." "We don't need the power plant," Alex said. "We need power." "There's a difference. Katie, can your fusion reactor be scaled up?" Katie, the 9-year-old who had built the small fusion device, nodded enthusiastically. "I think so, but I would need help with the magnetic containment system. The bigger it gets, the harder it is to control." "No problem," said a quiet boy named Eric. He was only 11, but Zekthari had watched him solve mathematical equations that would challenge university professors. "I can calculate the field dynamics. Give me an hour with a computer and I'll have the specifications ready." Zekthari felt his skin change color with amazement. These children were talking about building a fusion power plant in a matter of hours. Adult Vorthak engineers would need months to plan such a project and years to build it. "What about materials?" asked a 12-year-old girl named Sophie. "We need special metals for the reactor chamber. "The old mining equipment has what we need," said Ryan, the boy who had improved the town's computer system. "I already checked the inventory. There's enough titanium and beryllium in storage to build what Katie needs." A 10-year-old boy named Danny raised his hand. "How do we get the power from the reactor to the rest of the town?" "All the power lines are down. We build new ones," said a 15-year-old girl named Maria. "Not the old kind that break in storms. I've been working on a wireless power transmission system. This would be the perfect time to test it." Zekathari could hardly believe what he was hearing. These children were not just playing with ideas. They were developing a real plan to save their entire town, and from what he had seen of their abilities, they might actually be able to do it. Within an hour, the children had organized themselves into teams. Each team had a specific job, and every child knew exactly what they needed to do. It was more efficient than any military operation Zekathari had ever seen. Katie's team worked on building the fusion reactor. They took apart the school's science equipment and combined it with materials from the storage warehouses. The 9-year-old girl directed older children like she was an experienced engineer. Eric's team ran calculations on computers powered by small batteries. They figured out how much energy the town needed and how to distribute it safely. The 11-year-old boy filled blackboards with equations that made Zekathari's head hurt, just looking at them. Ryan's team worked on the control systems. They built a computer network that could monitor the reactor and adjust its output automatically. The 12-year-old boy wrote programming code faster than most adults could type. Maria's team built the wireless power transmission system. They set up devices around the town that could receive energy from the reactor and send it to buildings wirelessly. The 15-year-old girl's invention looked like it belonged in a science fiction movie. The most amazing thing was how well the children worked together. There were no arguments or power struggles. When someone had a better idea, the others listened and adapted their plans. When someone made a mistake, the others helped fix it without blame or criticism. The human adults watched with a mixture of pride and bewilderment. They offered help when asked, but mostly they stayed out of the way. They seemed to understand that their children were more capable of handling this crisis than they were. "How do they do it?" asked one of the adult engineers. "Yesterday, Katie was learning basic math. Today, she's building a fusion reactor." "Human children are different," answered Mrs. Peterson, one of the teachers. "They don't know what's supposed to be impossible yet. So they do impossible things." By evening, the children had completed their project. The fusion reactor hummed quietly in the school's basement, producing clean energy. The wireless transmission system sent power to every building in town. The lights came back on just as the temperature began to drop. Zekathari ran a full sensor scan of the children's power system. The results shocked him. Their fusion reactor was more efficient than anything the Vorthak military used. Their wireless power transmission was based on principles his scientists did not even understand. Their control systems were more advanced than the computers on his spy ship, but the most shocking thing was the time frame. In less than 18 hours, human children had solved a problem that would have taken adult Vorthak engineers several months. They had built technology that was beyond anything in the Vorthak database, and they had done it while playing and laughing like it was just another school project. That night, Zekathari sat in his ship staring at the human colony. Warm light glowed from every window, powered by the impossible creation of human children. The adults were celebrating their rescue, but the children had already moved on to other projects. Zekathari began to understand a terrible truth. General Morthak had warned him about human warriors and their ability to adapt in battle. But the general had only seen human adults. He had never seen what human children could do when they put their minds to a problem. Human adults were dangerous because they fought without giving up. But human children were dangerous because they solved problems that should not have solutions. They created technologies that should not exist. They made the impossible look easy, and in a few years these children would become adults. They would still have their incredible problem-solving abilities, but they would also have the experience and knowledge that came with age. What would they be capable of then? For the first time since arriving at the colony, Zekathari wondered if he was witnessing the birth of something that would change the entire galaxy, something that might make his own species obsolete, something that no one had prepared him for. Commander Zekathari walked through the metal halls of the Vorthak military base on his home planet Kethmore. His 4 arms moved with nervous energy as he carried his assignment papers. Today would change his life forever, though he did not know it yet. The young Vorthak officer had blue-green skin that showed his worry through small color changes. His large black eyes moved quickly as he read his orders again. He was going to Earth's outer colonies to watch the humans. The High Command wanted to know what the humans were planning. Zekthari stopped at a heavy door marked with General Morthek's name. He took a deep breath and pressed the entry button. The door slid open with a soft hiss. General Morthek sat behind a large desk made of black metal. The old Vorthak's skin was covered in battle scars that told stories of many wars. His right arm was mechanical, replaced after a fight with human soldiers 3 years ago. When he looked up at Zekthari, his eyes were hard and cold. "Commander Zekthari reporting for briefing, sir," the young officer said. He stood straight and kept his voice steady. "Sit down, Commander," General Morthek said. His voice was rough like broken glass. "We need to talk about humans." Zekthari sat in the chair across from the general's desk. The general pressed a button and the room went dark. Blue light filled the air above the desk, showing moving pictures of human soldiers. "Look at them," the general said. He pointed at the images with his mechanical arm. "These are human warriors. They fight like nothing we have ever seen before." The pictures showed humans in battle. They moved fast and worked together like parts of one machine. Zekthari watched them use weapons that seemed too big for their small bodies. But somehow they carried them easily. "This battle happened on Proxima Base," General Morthek said. The pictures changed to show a space station under attack. "We had 500 soldiers there. The humans had only 50. Guess who won?" Zekthari felt his skin turn pale blue. "The humans won with only 50 soldiers?" "They did more than win," the general said. His voice got quieter and more dangerous. "They took the base in 2 hours. Our soldiers had better weapons and more training. But the humans did something we could not understand." The pictures showed human soldiers working in small groups. They moved like they could read each other's minds. When one group attacked from the front, another group appeared behind the enemy. When Vorthak soldiers tried to trap them, the humans seemed to vanish and appear somewhere else. "They think different than us," General Morthek continued. "When we plan, we think about what we know. When humans plan, they think about what might be possible. This makes them very dangerous." Zekthari watched more battle footage. He saw a human soldier jump from a high platform and use his fall to crash into 3 Vorthak warriors. The human rolled when he hit the ground and came up shooting. It looked impossible, but it worked. "Their bodies are weak," the general said. "They break easy and heal slow. But their minds are like weapons. They never give up. Even when they are dying, they keep fighting." The general showed pictures of human prisoners. Even locked in cells, they looked for ways to escape. Some had been caught trying to take apart their cell walls with pieces of food. Others had made tools from their own clothing. "I learned about humans the hard way," General Morthek said. He moved his mechanical arm. "A human female did this to me. She was small and had no weapon. I had full battle armor and a plasma rifle, but she used my own strength against me. She made me hit myself with my own weapon." Zekthari tried to understand how that was possible. Vorthak soldiers were trained to be stronger and faster than most species in the galaxy. How could a small human female beat a trained Vorthak warrior? "Do not think about it too long," the general said. He seemed to read Zekthari's thoughts. "That is their first weapon against us. They make us think so hard about how they won that we forget to watch what they are doing next." The pictures changed again. Now they showed human settlements on different planets. The humans built their cities in ways that made no sense to Vorthak minds. Some buildings went deep underground while others reached high into the sky. They connected everything with tunnels and bridges that seemed to have no pattern. "This is where you are going," General Morthek said. The picture focused on one planet. Kepler 442b. The humans call it New Haven. It looks like a simple farming colony, but we think they are building something there. Zekthari studied the images. The planet looked peaceful. He could see fields of crops and small towns. There were some factories, but nothing that looked like weapons. "What kind of something, sir?" "That is what you will find out," the general said. "The humans are planning their next move. They always are. We need to know what it is before they surprise us again." The general stood up and walked to a large window. Outside, Zekthari could see the training grounds where young Vorthak soldiers practiced fighting. Their movements were precise and powerful, but they all looked the same. "Remember this, Commander," General Morthek said without turning around. "Humans are not like us. They do not follow rules the way we do. When we say something is impossible, they ask why. When we say something cannot be done, they try to do it anyway. This makes them the most dangerous enemy we have ever faced. Zekthari felt a chill run through his body. How do I fight an enemy like that, sir? You do not fight them, the general said. He turned back to face Zekthari. You watch them. You learn from them. And you report everything back to us. The smallest detail might be the key to understanding their next move. The general gave Zekthari a data pad with his mission details. You leave tomorrow. Your ship is already prepared. You will have the best surveillance equipment we can make. Use it well. Zekthari took the data pad and stood up. I will not fail you, sir. See that you do not, General Morthek said. The future of our species might depend on what you discover. Never forget that humans are dangerous. Never let your guard down, and never, ever underestimate what they can do. As Zekthari left the general's office, he felt the weight of his mission on his shoulders. He was going to spy on the most dangerous species in the galaxy, but he felt ready. The general had warned him about everything he needed to know, or so he thought. Zekthari sat in his ship that night, staring at a blank report screen. For weeks he had been sending routine updates to Vorthak Command, describing the human colony as a peaceful farming settlement with no military significance. But now he knew the truth and he had to decide what to do with it. The children of Harmony Falls were not just intelligent. They were revolutionizing science and technology with the casual ease of playing games. They were creating devices and solving problems that could change the balance of power in the entire galaxy, and they were doing it without any awareness of how dangerous their knowledge could be. His duty as a Vorthak intelligence officer was clear. He should report everything he had seen to General Morthek and the High Command. They would want to know about the fusion reactors, the anti-gravity devices, the time dilation experiments, and the quantum communication systems. They would want to know that human children were developing technologies that could make Vorthak military equipment obsolete. But Zekthari also knew what would happen next. The Vorthak military would see the human children as a threat that needed to be eliminated before it could grow stronger. They would send a battle fleet to destroy the colony and everyone in it. They would kill children to prevent them from becoming too powerful as adults. The thought made Zekthari's skin turn a sickly green color. These were not soldiers or warriors. They were children who built amazing things because they were curious about how the universe worked. They shared their knowledge freely and helped each other solve problems. They had saved their own town from freezing, not to demonstrate their power, but because people needed help. As he struggled with his decision, Zekthari's communication system received an incoming message. But it was not from Vorthak Command. It was coming from the human colony below. The message appeared on his screen with a simple text. Hi there. We know you're watching us. Want to be friends instead? We could teach you some cool stuff. Zekthari's 4 hearts nearly stopped beating. The humans had detected his surveillance ship. His supposedly invisible technology had been spotted by the very children he was watching. A second message followed, this one with technical specifications attached. We noticed your ship's energy signature 3 days ago. Your cloaking technology is really interesting, but it has some inefficiencies. We think we can help you improve it by about 40%. The attached files contained detailed analyses of Vorthak stealth technology, along with suggestions for improvements. Zekthari ran the calculations through his ship's computer. The human children were right. Their modifications would make his cloaking system significantly more effective. A third message arrived. Don't worry, we haven't told any adults about you. We figured you were probably just curious about us like we're curious about you. But watching from far away is kind of boring. Why don't you come visit? We have so many questions about your species. The messages were signed by Katie, the 9-year-old who had built the fusion reactor. Somehow this child had not only detected his advanced spy ship, but had analyzed its technology and offered to improve it, all while keeping his presence secret from the human adults. Zekthari realized that his surveillance mission had been meaningless from the beginning. The human children had known he was there all along. They had let him watch them, perhaps even performed some of their demonstrations for his benefit. They had been studying him as much as he had been studying them. More messages began arriving. Other children introduced themselves and shared their current projects. Chris sent details about his quantum communication network and asked if Zekthari's species had similar technology. Emma and Jake shared their time dilation research and wondered if Vorthak science had explored temporal mechanics. Each message was friendly and curious, with no hint of fear or hostility. These children had discovered an alien spy watching their colony, and their first reaction was to try to make friends and share knowledge. Zekthari made his decision. He composed a message to send back to the children. "I would be honored to learn from you. But first I must tell you something important." He explained who he was and why he had been sent to watch them. He told them about the Vorthak military and their fear of human expansion. He described what would happen if his superiors learned about the children's capabilities. The response came quickly. "We kind of figured you were some kind of scout." "That's okay. We understand that different species sometimes get scared of each other. But maybe instead of being scared, we could help each other." Katie's next message included a proposal that took Zekthari's breath away. The children wanted to establish a secret cultural exchange program. They would share their scientific discoveries with interested Vorthak scientists, while learning about Vorthak technology and culture in return. The exchange would be kept hidden from both military organizations until trust could be established. "We think fear comes from not understanding each other," Katie wrote. "If we can learn to work together, maybe our species can be friends instead of enemies." Zekthari thought about General Morthek's warnings about human unpredictability. The general had been right, but in ways he never could have imagined. These humans were unpredictable because they responded to potential threats with curiosity and offers of friendship instead of fear and aggression. For 3 days, Zekthari exchanged messages with the human children. They sent him technical data about their inventions, along with detailed explanations of how everything worked. In return, he shared information about Vorthak science and culture, carefully avoiding anything that could be used as a weapon. The children's questions showed him how different their thinking was from adult minds. They wanted to know about Vorthak art and music, not just technology. They asked about Vorthak families and friendships. They wondered if young Vorthak ever built things just for fun, the way human children did. Marcus sent him specifications for a matter compiler that could create any object from basic atoms, but he also sent a drawing he had made of what he imagined Zekthari's home planet looked like, based on their conversations. Sarah shared her research on controlled black hole energy storage, along with a recipe for human cookies that she thought he might enjoy trying. These children were offering him access to technologies that could advance Vorthak civilization by centuries. But they were also treating him like a friend, sharing the small personal things that made life meaningful. When the time came to send his final report to Vorthak Command, Zekthari knew what he had to do. He composed a brief message stating that the human colony posed no military threat and recommended continued passive observation only. He deleted all references to the children's advanced projects from his files. Then he sent a private message to the human children. "I have decided not to report your capabilities to my military. Your species has shown me something my people have forgotten. You have shown me that the greatest strength is not in weapons or conquest, but in curiosity and friendship." Katie's response came within minutes. "Thank you for protecting us. But you don't have to choose between your people and ours. Maybe together we can find a way for everyone to benefit." The children had been working on their own proposal. They wanted to gradually introduce advanced technologies to all galactic species, not as weapons, but as tools for exploration and understanding. They envisioned a galaxy where different species shared knowledge freely, working together to solve the great mysteries of the universe. "We have so much to learn from each other," Chris wrote. "Your people understand things about space and time that we're just beginning to discover. Our people understand things about possibility and creativity that might help your scientists too." Zekthari realized he was witnessing the beginning of something unprecedented in galactic history. These human children were not just developing amazing technologies, they were developing a new way of thinking about relationships between species. Instead of competition and conquest, they offered cooperation and mutual enrichment. Instead of hoarding knowledge as a source of power, they wanted to share it as a gift. Instead of seeing differences between species as threats, they saw them as opportunities to learn. As he prepared to begin his new role as an unofficial ambassador between two species, Zekthari understood what General Morthek had missed. The general had warned him that human adults were dangerous because they fought without giving up. But human children were far more dangerous than that. They were dangerous because they might just save the galaxy from itself, and Zekathari had chosen to help them try. 3 months later, the first joint Vorthak-human research project began in secret. Young scientists from both species worked together to develop new exploration technologies. The project was small and hidden, but it was the beginning of something that would eventually transform the entire galaxy. General Morthek had been right about one thing. Humans were unpredictable, but their unpredictability was not a threat to be feared. It was a gift to be cherished.